Here, in the foothills of Mount Kenya, a team of conservation experts is trying to perform a miracle and pull an iconic African species back from the brink of extinction. This is the home of the mountain bongo. Three hours north of Nairobi, one of the world's most ambitious conservation projects is underway at Mount Kenya. The mountain bongo, a large forest-dwelling antelope, is critically endangered and on the International Union for the Conservation of Nature Red List, with fragmented habitat and fewer than 100 remaining individuals in the wild. Here, a multidisciplinary team is working around the clock to conserve what is left and what is surely one of the most beautiful animals in Africa. Dr. Robert Arujo, head of conservancy at Mount Kenya, has been interested in the welfare of animals ever since he was a little child in Uganda on his parents' tea plantation, where he was employed to fend off the many beasts and birds that tried to steal free food from their garden.
Several monkeys used to come and raid the crops, so they needed a hand to go in and chase away these animals from causing havoc to the crops. So my mother carried me away as a little boy. And that gave me actually an opportunity to see every type of monkey. My duty was to make sure that the baboons actually stay away from the garden. So through that interaction, I remember asking my mother, when we are sick, we go to the hospital. When these animals are sick, where do they go? And she was stunned by the question, looked at me, said, we go to the hospital, but I don't think these animals go to hospital. I think they just fall sick and die. So I told her, Mom, I want to be a doctor for these animals when I grow up. So it was quite a serious promise that I did not know whether I was going to fulfill, but my resolve was quite firm.
Robert now leads the program to save the mountain bongo here at the Conservancy.
The mountain bongo is the most beautiful forest antelope, the largest forest antelope existing. It's a typical Kenyan animal. It's only found in Kenya. So that means extinct of this animal in Kenya will actually be extinction in the whole world in a while. The mountain bongo has faced a lot of struggles. One, its size makes it a target for poachers. So they were highly hunted because of the abundance of meat they are able to provide. Then the skin and the horns make the animal extremely beautiful. And their chocolate white striped skin was appealing to every person who was hunting. So trophy hunting decimated its population. Then habitat loss because of the loss of forest cover due to land for agriculture, settlement and developments, which have actually severely fragmented the remaining population.
But direct human activity hasn't been the only danger. Outbreaks of parasitic rinderpest from nearby grazing cattle has also contributed to the hollowing out of bongo herds.
Fast forward in 2004, we had hoped the situation in the wild was going to improve, but it didn't. So we imported 18 mountain bongos from various zoos in America to start the breeding and rewilding program. Yeah, we've been very successful in breeding the mountain bongo. We have come from those low numbers, 18 that we imported, to now over 95 mountain bongos. Actually, we are the biggest mountain bongo holding institution in the whole world.
To give the mountain bongo every chance of success in its journey back into the wild, It has to be perfectly managed, every stage meticulously planned, from the breeding of a newborn calf to the reintroduction of healthy, happy individuals like Benji here back to its natural home. When you walk around the open spaces of the Conservancy, you'd be forgiven for thinking that breeding animals is easy. There is new life everywhere you look here. Birds, zebra, antelopes, giraffes, warthogs, all browse around like happy families. It is simply stunning. But each species has their own quirks. Zebras can delay birth in drought years, giraffes have long gestations, and conservation of endangered animals require a lot of monitoring and care. At the same time, they also need to be left alone and to figure things out for themselves if they're ever going to be ready for the real wild world beyond the safe borders of the Conservancy. Andrew Moulan is a mountain bongo program assistant at the Wildlife Conservancy. His day typically starts around 6 a.m. when he goes to the bongo enclosure to conduct morning monitoring of the herds and keep a keen eye on how each individual is doing, both physically and socially. How many bongos are in the Conservancy right now?
As of the recent births, we hit 95.
95.
95 bongos.
It's amazing.
With the paddock, the sanctuary has got 24 of them, and the rest are within the paddocks.
Right.
We are in one of Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy's bongo breeding paddocks. We call it a boma. It's a transitional semi-wild habitat where bongos get to learn to adapt in a wild setup. And we are lucky this morning to see them and check the interaction with the mother, because that's one of the key things we do.
What happens when a calf is rejected by its mother?
We intervene and take the calf to the orphanage and start giving or fostering it with goat's milk. Until now the calf is stable and we see it's good enough to go back to the breeding paddocks.
Boma is Swahili for enclosure, and there are 8 separate bongo bomas on the property. And unlike the main conservancy, they're not open to the public. These spaces are the lifeblood of the conservation effort, and so far 20 captive bred individuals have been returned to the wild. And that has led to 4 natural births, making this initiative a resounding success already. And it's all down to a really careful and thoughtful design. So these bongos, are these males? Are they females?
These are herd with 1 dominant male, 8 females, and 10 young ones.
And so a herd would be quite small.
In the wild, herd can go up to 30 of them. But here, because we are doing a controlled breeding or selective breeding, we have to choose who is with who so that we can get the best genes, viable genes for the rewilding in the future.
So what is your role here, and what are you trying to do to make sure that the breeding is successful?
Effective monitoring, daily monitoring. We check whether each and every individual is fine, so that if there is any deviation from the normal, we can try and intervene faster so that we cannot be caught unaware. Secondly, we collect fecal samples to check their worms and for deworming, and also we select who is going to breed who for the better genes for the future. Bongos are very fragile and sensitive individuals.
When you intervene, what does that mean for the calf? They're taken away from the herd, and will they ever go back?
When we are intervening, it might be in 2 cases, whether the mother is not trying to suckle the calf or the calf is sick. When the mother is not attending to the calf, we take it to the orphanage and foster it. When the mother is attending to the calf and it's not okay, we just treat and leave the pair to continue staying together. So, and we continue monitoring daily to check whether the calf is improving.
How many of this herd might make it back into the wilderness?
In this herd, we can have 1 or 2, because in all paddocks, we select 5 of them to go back to the sanctuary once a year. So this paddock is one of the best because it has got many bongos interacting with one another. They have a bigger paddock with more browse, so they get to adapt faster to a wild setup. So we'll try and select 2 from this herd and take them to the sanctuary.
And life returns back to normal for this beautiful wild animal.
This is our transitional boma, where we start to expose the bongos which have been bred under total human care. And this transition takes around 3 years. And then from there, this animal is competent now with the instincts highly amplified to go now to the wild and be free.
So after 3 or 4 years of living in this semi-wild space, they're ready to graduate to the wild?
Yes. At that stage, they are adults, and then they are already competent for wild survival. Yeah.
Jane Wathika is a research scientist who studied at Oxford and now works at the Conservancy. She has a particular interest in the natural habitat of the mountain bongo and how we can best preserve these wild spaces. Unsurprisingly, it is humans again that are contributing the most damage. Jane, what do you think the biggest threat to managing wildlife is?
One of the biggest threats to wildlife conservation is the habitat loss, which is brought about by human encroachment, and this leads to habitat fragmentation. And since we are working with the bongo animals, which are critically endangered, they are found in mountainous areas. And for instance, in Mount Kenya and Aberdares, they used to be together, but because of the human encroachment, they were separated and the area looked like an island. Therefore, there is no genetic diversity across the 2 habitats.
Aberdare and Mount Kenya were essentially once the same forest, but because of construction and road building, the connection between the 2 areas has been severed. As Jane says, apart from increasing stress, development can affect genetic diversity, which is bad for the health of the overall population. We need not just halt development in these critical areas. Restoration is also an important part of the solution. So what can we do to combat that habitat loss?
The thing that we can do is planting trees as a major thing. Now, because habitat loss is basically cutting down of trees. Now, so the way to do that is to plant more trees. And one of the measures that we have taken as Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy is that we have planted indigenous trees in the area that we are in. You can clearly see that.
And so by planting indigenous trees, you are recreating that environment to welcome the wildlife back. How important is it to involve the community in this project?
To give them the sense of belonging. So to do that, you make sure that any tree that we have planted as Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy, we have sourced them from the community. And the community themselves are given the task to plant the trees here. And after planting trees, they are given job to continue ensuring that the trees are well maintained till maturity, to give them that incentive towards conservation.
People tend to think that habitat loss is something that just happened in the past, but that's not really true, is it?
It's not something of the past because as we are speaking right now, there is a proposal to construct a road that is going to pass through the Aberdares National Park. And in the Aberdares is where we have the largest herd of mountain bongo, having in mind that we only have less than 100 mountain bongo in the world. So the question is, how is the road going to affect the conservation of this critically endangered species?
Yeah, that's a good question. You can breed endangered animals and release them into the wild all day long. But if you don't address the human factors that led to the problem in the first place, it's all for nothing. Education is key. That's right. How many stripes do you think a bongo has?
4.
Christine, how many stripes does a bongo have?
11 to 17.
11 to 17. This is Christine. She is an animal keeper and an expert in the bongo. She knows everything you want to know about a bongo. Does someone want to ask Christine a question?
Yes?
What is a bongo?
Okay, that's a good question. A bongo is an antelope, and they only live in the forest. Forest has many trees and many bushes. They only eat leaves, and that's why they live in the forest. Okay?
Nasikia sauti, sauti ya mama, sauti ya mama. Sasa ni saa sita, kwaheri mwalimu, kwaheri mwalimu. Sauti ya mama, sauti ya mama.
Christine Gathonu is an animal keeper and guide at the orphanage. When bongos become injured or need to receive care, this is where they come. And it's the information hub of the program, with 30,000 curious kids passing through here every year. And their enthusiasm is a secret weapon.
When kids visit the orphanage, when they go back to their villages or their communities, they also help us a lot because they teach their parents who didn't get the opportunity to visit this place or get the opportunity of learning. They also teach the members of communities where they live in, and we create awareness to them. They help us a lot in reducing the incidences of poaching, because once they see the fish incidences or people trying to poach the animals, like for meat or for their skin, they usually report or call the authorities around them, which helps in reducing the incidents. They also help us when they spot an injured animal. We are able to report early, and in many cases we are able to rescue the animal, especially with the snares. And also when they see babies that are orphans around their villages or around their communities, they call us earlier and we're able to rescue the baby. And if the baby survives this, it gets another chance to go back to the wild.
The Conservancy orphanage sits on about half an acre and is located to the north of the main park. It's host to all sorts of animals that end up here for all sorts of reasons, like this African wood owl.
Most people believe that when you spot an owl in your compound, someone will die or something bad will happen. So the mom was killed by the community members, and when the kids arrived, they called us. We went for the baby and we were able to save the baby, and that's why the baby is still flourishing here at the orphanage, and we'll get a chance to release it back to the owl and get a second chance of living.
The Bongo program really needs people to be invested in their survival. Quite literally. The sanctuary depends hugely on funding to maintain its impressive range of activities. Benji's family have been coming regularly to the sanctuary for years and are deeply involved in helping the animals' rehabilitation. Benji, how long have you been coming to Mount Kenya Conservancy?
Been coming for 13 years and I'm only 12, so...
So you were coming since before you were born?
Yeah.
There's something special about the mountain bongo for you. What is it that you find so interesting about it?
They're just like the most beautiful antelope you'll ever see. They're one of a kind. There's so few of them in the wild.
What is it that you love about the mountain bongo?
It's just even their colours and their stripes is like so perfect but also imperfect at the same time. Every bongo is different. It's just amazing. When I came here, I learned so much about the mountain bongo, and I think everyone needs to hear their story.
And here it is. What's this one's name?
Tama.
Tama. And how old is the boy or girl?
Boy, and it's 2 years old.
Right. And so is it old enough to find a mate yet or not yet?
Not yet. They should be at least 5, and there's so many males that it's hard to give them all mates.
It seems like you know a lot about these animals.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a lot to keep them safe, don't we?
Yeah.
Thanks, Benji. We came so close to losing the mountain bongo forever, and its future is still uncertain. Yet it takes so much effort to save just this one species. The moral of the story is clear. We need to urgently reflect on the future that we want for this planet and for the animals we share it with. The story of the mountain bongo is, of course, not a solitary one. Nature is fragile, and some of the harms we humans have caused in the name of progress are irreversible. There are literally thousands of species across the world on the brink of extinction, and they depend very much on the kindness of strangers and the compassion of young and old alike, who understand that while we may think ourselves masters of this planet, we are not the only ones living on it.